Welcome back. Today I'll be going over chapter 2 of Ginger Alden's book, Elvis and Ginger. Ginger says by the early 1960s, her family had settled into a modest 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom home in a growing Memphis suburb. She says her parents were hardworking, ordinary people. Her father, Walter, retired from the Army and managed a local department store, and her mother, Jo, ran a stamp shop nearby. She says her parents raised their children with strong morals and values. Ginger says during her childhood through her early teens, Elvis's fame continued to soar. He recorded hit songs, he starred in films, got married, and became a father. Occasionally, when relatives would come to visit them in Memphis, the relatives wanted to see Graceland. So her family would take them there, and a security guard would take them for a short ride up and down the driveway in Graceland's famous pink striped canopied Jeep. She says these tours usually were given when Elvis was away. Sorry guys, my allergies are they're just acting up today, so my nose is all red. Ginger says that she was tomboyish, quote, tomboyish growing up. She loved roller skating, horseback riding, and climbing trees. She would pretend to ride her brother's motorcycle, sometimes even joining him for short rides despite their parents' worries. She says she loved motorcycles, and she eventually convinced her dad to get her a mini bike when she was 14. Ginger says that her greatest passion, though, was art, and that she spent much of her time drawing and painting, and she was contemplating turning it into a career. Ginger also loved to sing. She says music was a big part of her family life. Her mom liked a variety of music genres, and when her mom was home, the house was filled with gospel hymns and songs by artists like Dean Martin, Tom Jones, and Elvis. She says her mother's passion for music influenced all the children. Terry took up piano lessons, and Ginger began vocal training at 13. Ginger says some of her favorite memories were of the family gathering around the piano while her mother played, and she would stand behind her mother singing. Ginger says that she loved to sing, but her deep self-consciousness kept her from performing in public, and she eventually stopped taking voice lessons in high school because she was unable to overcome her shyness. Though she was a bit of a tomboy, Ginger says that she and her sister Terry loved cutting out pictures of models from magazines and catalogs, pretending that they were paper dolls. And Ginger says as a teenager, she thought, wow, being a model sounds so cool. When she was 16, she accompanied her sister Rosemary to a downtown Memphis department store hosting auditions for a, quote, Model of the Year pageant organized by New York agent Stuart Cowley. To her surprise, Mr. Cowley approached her directly and asked why she wasn't entering the auditions, and he handed her an entry form. She says she was nervous but thrilled. She filled it out with shaking hands, and Rosemary told her to turn the form in to Mr. Cowley directly and to make sure, quote, make sure you smile. But she says when Mr. Cowley saw her age, noticed her age on the form, he told her kindly to return in a couple of years. The minimum age requirement was 18. Ginger says a few weeks later, she appeared with 2 other girls in a short segment of a TV show called Talent Party. She says soon after, someone saw her on the show and offered her a job in a local television commercial. She says she also worked 2 part-time jobs, waitressing on weekends and decorating windows at a dress shop. Ginger says she viewed the dress shop as, quote, a stepping stone in the artistic field. Ginger says she entered local art contests and even won awards. She graduated in 1974 with scholarship funds, and she attended the Memphis Academy of Art. She gave up her restaurant job, but she continued working part-time at the dress shop. But Ginger found that the Academy's demanding coursework was overwhelming. She decided to take a break after her first year in hopes to explore other ways to build a career in the arts. In 1975, Ginger's sister Terry entered the Miss Memphis pageant, after seeing an ad, and she won first runner-up. Terry encouraged Ginger to compete in the Miss Tennessee Universe pageant later that year. And Ginger saw it as a chance to build confidence, and she decided to try. In early 1976, she entered and placed first runner-up. She says that same year, the family moved into a larger home in East Memphis. Her brother Mike was now a firefighter, and he lived nearby with his wife and two daughters. She and her sisters still lived at home with their parents. Ginger says her parents had been struggling in their marriage for several years. Joe had even filed for divorce twice in 1974, but withdrew both times in hopes of reconciliation. She says when the family bought their new home, the children hoped it signaled a fresh start for their parents. That spring, Terry re-entered the Miss Memphis pageant and won, advancing to Miss Tennessee, where she was crowned the 1976 winner. Ginger entered a few local pageants herself, earning titles such as Miss Traffic Safety and Duchess at the city's annual Cotton Carnival Ball. That summer, Terry, as Miss Tennessee, was invited to a Memphis country club, and there she received free tickets to see Elvis perform at the Mid-South Coliseum on July 5th. But because she had other commitments, Terry couldn't attend, so she gave the tickets to her mom, Rosemary, and Ginger. Ginger says none of them could have known that Terry's pageant title would soon become the connection to Graceland and into Elvis's life. Ginger says she was overjoyed to see Elvis perform live for the first time. She says that she herself didn't own any of his records, but her mother had his gospel and Christmas albums, and her brother Mike owned several of Elvis's early Sun label records. Ginger's own taste in music ranged from classical to rock and roll, and at the time she especially loved Fleetwood Mac, Led Zeppelin, and Elton John. She says their seats were not close to the stage, but she was instantly mesmerized when Elvis appeared and the cameras started flashing. The voice she had heard all her life was now coming from the man himself right before her eyes. Ginger says Elvis's hair was longer and he looked a little bit heavier than in his early years, but she was completely drawn in by his stage presence. He wore a white jumpsuit with an Egyptian bird design, blue silk sleeves, and a matching belt with hanging chains. She says the audience was a blend of children, teenagers, and middle-aged adults. I think it's neat that he attracts fans of all ages. It's not just one, young kids. It's not just older people. So I think that's really neat. Ginger says Elvis delivered an incredible show and at one point told the crowd, quote, "The first record that I did here in Memphis, was That's All Right, Mama," and so forth. And they had a couple of people say, "Well, you can't do that anymore. You, by God, watch me," end quote. He then launched into the song with full energy, proving them wrong. She says, unfortunately, that would be Elvis's last hometown performance. That does it for chapter 2. I know I mistakenly said in my last check-in video that this chapter 2 was a long chapter, but it's actually chapter 3 that's a long chapter because it's where Ginger will detail the first time she went to Graceland and how Elvis was smitten by her. So stay tuned. See you then.